morning, everybody. Welcome to Pumps and Politics this morning. Today is November 2nd, 3rd? I think
Third.
November 3rd.
Third.
Oh,
Tomorrow's
that's right.
election day.
Tomorrow is election day, and as usual, it's a Monday morning. It's crazy already, but she's going to get her attitude together this morning because we're going to have a good show.
Yes, because it's Monday and the sun is shining. It's a little crisp.
It is. But
and we fell back. So thank you, Lord,
yeah.
because that has just set my whole time schedule up even better.
You know, I never liked daylight savings time when it gets dark early. I hate it. But, you know, that started many moons ago for the farmers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why we still have to do that. Why can't they be on their own special schedule?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
You get up earlier. Don't worry about us.
Right.
Although I do appreciate
Right.
having longer days, like the light, because I hate leaving work now and it's 5 o'clock and it's dark and the lights are on in the parking lot. You get home and you just want to go to bed and eat some chili. Janine, I heard you made some chili last night.
I did.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, this is my favorite time of the year. In addition to the fact that the time falls back and I feel like I can be more on time to things. Like I was in here a little bit on time today.
Girl,
so,
girl,
A
bye.
little bit on time.
a little bit. Oh, wait a minute.
Girl, bye.
Wait
We
a
were here at
minute.
7:30. Girl, bye.
Ma'am, well, y'all know I'm not getting here at 7:30. So I'm
Shit,
that
I don't
host.
get here at 7:30. It was rare this morning.
I'm that host that skates in 5 minutes, but I'm always ready for y'all. Hey, Pumps and Politics
You
crew.
stroll right on in. Handle business. That's what it's about.
But yeah, so I did. This is my favorite time of the year. In addition to October being my birthday month and, you know, all the other fall babies, I love crock pot cooking in the fall. So I love chili. You're right, I'm still celebrating Hush. I love chili. I love, you know, just soups, homemade beef stew. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the best for me.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make some white bean chicken chili tonight. I
Yeah.
think
Oh my
that
gosh.
is
Bring me a bowl. I
great.
just started. Did I tell you I just
You
started
started
making
making
it a little while ago?
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan, but I like to sample and try other recipes, so you got to bring me some.
White
I will.
bean chili
Because I
is
shred the chicken
good.
instead of using like the ground chicken.
See, I use ground chicken. Let me try the shredded chicken.
Yeah, sometimes and to make it real easy, sometimes I just go buy a rotisserie chicken and then just ground up
And then
that,
shred
just
it.
shred it,
Yes.
throw it all in, and it just makes it that much faster.
Now, do you all do homemade chicken and dumplings?
Yes,
I've
but
never
I don't make
made
dumplings
chicken and dumplings. I want
like
to.
the.
Ooh.
I make dumplings like the biscuit kind of. I don't make the.
I make the cut.
Yeah, see, I don't make the cut.
square, but they're still doughy. They're still, so it's kind of like gnocchi. So it's like gnocchi. So yeah,
I make
so,
mine look like pillows of clouds. They're
oh
just
my
like
gosh,
cloud and
pillows of
fluffy.
clouds.
Well, all right. Okay, now I have a new recipe. My husband is listening. Scott Wallace, that means chicken and dumplings coming your way. I'm inspired now. I got to make it this week. Don't be looking at me, Chantel, like, okay, just let me know what day so I come over and get a plate.
Except I can't make chicken and dumplings. I am no carb November, so.
Speaking of carbs and cooking and not baking, somebody, if we even wanted to, is like do a little birthday cake, whatever. Happy birthday to one of our intern / producer, Taylor
21.
Page Powell.
Woo! She's 21.
Turning 21. She turned up, I heard, before she actually turned 21.
And it's hot because her driver's license still says under 21, even
I'm
though
just
she got a
saying.
new one. But what?
Wow.
Oh, okay, girl,
I'm
go
just saying.
go get you a new one today.
We're not going to tell where she was, you know, to get turned up a little bit before she was 21.
Taylor had her own personalized water bottles because that's how important
And
it
she had
is.
some M&Ms. Did you see that?
No, I
Did
didn't
she
see
show
the
picture?
M&Ms.
All of this was on Facebook.
No, she had the water bottle with her, honey.
Oh,
This is at her
okay.
party that she had that
That
she
you
did not invite us.
I don't
me
recall
that one.
to.
Okay, so I wasn't the only
Really?
one who wasn't on the
No,
invite
I
list.
wasn't
No,
invited.
you were not.
Wow,
Several of us that
Taylor,
were not
that's
invited.
that's pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have
cute.
paid for our own food. It's okay. Like, we could have still, you
No,
know.
we wouldn't have.
Wow. Oh,
Never mind.
I would have Taylor. I would have paid.
Happy birthday to
Jesus.
Taylor, who wore, was it a martini glass, I think, on her shirt, just to let everyone, and it
Oh, the
says
birthday
Birthday
girl.
girl, so it's a
That's
sticker,
cute.
so lets
Very-
everybody know that she is 21.
Very
So there's no question.
personalized.
She is the birthday girl. She is 21. And she's
I like that. I
now
like that.
legal.
Very
I
personalized.
don't even
on
remember
the event
turning
side.
21.
Yeah, I don't remember what I did at 21. I think I was still in college,
don't.
actually.
I drunk on my birthday. That's what I did.
Maybe that's why I don't remember.
Right. Well, I did do that. Oh, I remember there was a club on, yeah. I did that.
Well,
you know,
so,
you
yes,
got
I'm not
to.
going to talk about it.
Tomorrow's election day, y'all, and one of the big
Yes,
things on the
yes.
ball for election day
Speaking
is
of the turn up.
Speaking of the
Yes.
turn up, one of the big things on the ballot is wine in the grocery store.
And I voted
Yes.
twice
And-
for it. I'm just saying.
Wait, how you
Sorry.
vote twice?
Hey,
She followed
See,
the rules.
voted
Vote
for-
early, vote often.
I didn't
Right.
vote early this time, y'all.
I
know,
did.
shame
I
on me.
did. That's my thing.
I got so busy and forgot, but I will be voting tomorrow morning.
But you know
I
what?
have
I
plans for
like the excitement of actually voting on election day.
that. Me too.
I like the drive and the excitement and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I did go vote early because I felt like tomorrow I may have been a little bit conflicted in my scheduling and stuff. I have
Yeah.
some things to do early in the morning, and that's when I really choose to go vote. But there's some interesting things on the ballot. We've got the wine in the grocery markets. We have the 4
Which is huge.
amendments. So we've got the abortion amendment. We have the
Amendment
tax
one.
amendment 1. We have the judicial amendment. That's
Right,
amendment
amendment
2.
two.
We have the tax amendment. That's amendment 3.
Three.
And we have the
like a
lotteries for
nonprofits.
nonprofits, and that's amendment
Yes.
4. So
Yes.
And that's a very important one too. Just having working in nonprofits, that's a very important one. So I was very
it's-
glad to vote.
yeah, an additional
For that. Exactly.
revenue stream. Hello, Lenny.
Right.
Can we talk? Revenue stream is definitely important, especially for nonprofits, because as we all know, we've come through a little bit of a recession, some tough times, and nonprofits have definitely lost out on a lot of money. And so
Yeah.
any ways that they can come up with making additional revenue without, just having to ask for it, but, having people participate makes it a little bit easier. Everybody usually wants something for something.
Right.
One of the other important things that everyone has to remember as we, plan to vote tomorrow, if you haven't voted already, is that this is a huge election because there are a number of Senate and representative folks who are on the ballot, and this will determine who will control Congress.
Right.
As President Obama goes into, the end of his term, and having that. For him, because he's Democratic, having that majority Democratic rule will help in pushing things along. Because, you want to end on a strong note. You want to get some things passed.
Right.
So I'm not telling you to vote Democratic. I'm not telling you to vote Republican, but I'm just saying
Just
this is
vote.
just why it's critical.
What was
Yes.
interesting was that early voting actually was down 19% across
Yes,
Tennessee, which
yes.
is a little bit crazy. I mean, we are blessed to have early voting. You can just schedule it. I don't live by Edmondson Pike, but I went to the Edmondson Pike Library. I walked in. It took me 5 minutes to vote.
And that's my hood. And I actually went to the Belle Meade because I happened to be on the Green Hill side of town. And again, it took me 5 minutes. The little old ladies in there were real sweet.
Got my 2 stickers.
Right, got my little stickers. So I don't understand why people don't early vote.
I was watching.
Because they forget and get busy.
No.
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 Negative. That's
I
one
know.
person in particular. And you have a right to be busy and to forget. But for those that aren't doing anything, literally, sitting around just waiting on stuff to happen, is no excuse.
Well,
not
one of
to
the things,
early
I was
vote.
watching Melissa Harris Perry over the weekend, and one of the things that they were talking about was during the presidential elections, the African American vote rocked the vote. We came out in droves. And for this election, we have not showed up at all. We have not. And these are the elections that affect us directly. These are the elections that we really need to participate in.
When you look at the times that on a national level, and then, I'll speak to that locally, when the African Americans turned out in large numbers, when we had a black president running the first time. Because remember, the second time, black voting numbers were down because the hype was over with, it's like, okay, did that already, he's in office, whatever. And then locally, we had a very strong African American turnout when we had in May.
Right. For all the
When we had our
For the
judicial
judicial.
candidates, because we had a strong number of African Americans on the ballot and a strong number of women and black women who were on the ballot. So it was a historical moment. We love being a part of history,
Right.
apparently.
Do we have
but
too many
nothing else.
elections in Tennessee, do you think? Too many? I mean, I
Yes.
think I voted like 4 times this year.
We have too many, and it's too confusing. People don't realize that there are primary elections, and then there come the other elections where you have final. People get confused on when you're voting and what you're voting on. For example, they're like, "Oh, I voted for Judge Rachel Bell, but now she's on the ballot again. I don't understand." They
Right.
don't. It's just too much.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a they need to condense it, and we should all. Voting should be. You should have your primary. Two a year. That's fine. You have your primary, and then you have the actual election day. And I think that election day should fall on November the 4th, like the rest of the country. But all these other little ballots that we've been voting on, I think that kind of takes the wind out of a lot of people's sails.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot.
And that's why, you have to keep before the people the different events. So different awareness events. So like the Deltas and the 100 Black Women are doing their candidate reception on today at 5:30 at Nova Copy. So, until we get the voting mix right, or until we get the number of times we have to vote, you still need to attend. If you haven't voted yet and you're not sure, you're a little confused about the issues, come out to these candidate forums, come out to the receptions, come out to those informational events so that you can be an informed voter.
And that, just to reiterate what Janine was saying, it's Delta Sigma Theta, Nashville Alumni Chapter, and the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. They're inviting everybody to come on out to the candidates' reception, and that is today at 5:30 p.m. at Nova, N-O-V-A, Copy Center, and that's at 15 Lindsley Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee, 37210 for your GPS.
Right. It's directly across the street from the Howard School building. So if you voted over in that area, it's right across the street. It's a nice facility, too.
Mm-hmm. And if...
Oh, go ahead.
If you need some more information, you can email social action, one word, at Nashville Alumni, and that's with AE at the end of it.com.
And speaking of voting and having your voice heard on the front end, there's one woman who is taking advantage of something that was put into place some time back. We're talking about Brittany Maynard. She's a 29-year-old woman who was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and not too long after being married, was diagnosed and had been suffering very severe seizures and debilitating seizures, and other, just a number of other symptoms of her disease that really just took over her life, and that of hers and her husband's. And they decided to move to I believe it was Oregon,
because they have a right to die.
Yes.
So that people won't be, it's not illegal to assist somebody with their suicide.
You can medically take your life with the assistance of a doctor.
Right.
Well,
and it's legal.
The interesting thing is that she didn't want to use the term suicide. Her terminology for it was death by dignity, or death with dignity. And so it was non-suicidal for her because she didn't want to die. As she said, the cancer was actually killing her. Most people who commit suicide, as they say, or as we believe, they truly want to die. Her thing was she didn't want to die, but she wanted to have control over when she died and not allow the cancer to control that.
And the terms that she died on, because she knew that a lot of the symptoms would just increase and she would become debilitated. People would have to take care of her, and she did not want to die that way, which is an interesting argument. I mean,
and yesterday she did, as she planned. She said on November 1st that she was going to take the cocktail, which was a combination of some medicines, take that cocktail, which would end her life on her terms, as she said. And that did indeed happen yesterday. And she said that she did discuss this with her family, her husband first, and then with the rest of her loved ones, and everyone agreed they were on the same page, and she went how and when she wanted to go.
One of the things that was interesting was that, she had put out a press release saying that, she was going to contemplate and rethink it. But the reason why she did that was to call the press off, so that people were thinking that she wasn't actually going to do it. But she wanted to do it with just her family, in the solemnity of her and the comfort of only her family and not the press, so that when they emerged from the home or from wherever she did it, they would not be bombarded, because I'm sure they're feeling they are in their feelings at that point in time.
Right.
And to not have the press hound them was definitely, she was thinking.
I watched her video last night, and it was very sobering, because again, there are a lot of issues or a lot of concerns and controversy around this. People in the faith-based communities had some things to say. Again, that whole, is it suicide? Is it not? Legally, that whole dying with dignity term is not a legally recognized term. So But her video was very sobering in the fact that she said she had seizures so bad one day that she knew she was in her body, saw her husband, but couldn't even say his name. And so that's the thing that she didn't want to continue to live out, knowing that at some point she would have no control. And I kind of think that, when we were doing the whole ice bucket challenge with ALS, that's a little bit how that disease is very debilitating, and it robs people of a lot.
It's a horrible thing. If you've ever witnessed anyone to die from cancer, it does kind of make you, kind of, I don't know, you don't look at that so it's in such a negative way. And as she mentioned, dying with dignity. One thing about it with a number of other illnesses, when it comes to cancer, you certainly lose a lot of dignity in that. But we're going to talk about this and a few more topics right after the break. Everyone, please stay tuned. We're talking wine and liquor stores. We have someone who's going to be on with us on the show, and we're talking Ferguson, Missouri, and a number of other things. Everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Today might be the day I drop out of school. Today could be the last day I try. My parents alone can't stop me. My friends can't even stop me. But you might be able to. With United Way, you could tutor me, be my mentor, or volunteer to just read with me. If someone had helped me earlier, I might not be struggling. And studies prove that kids who read well by 3rd grade are more likely to graduate. There are tons of ways people like you can help kids like me stay in school. And United Way is calling for you to be one of them. Because it takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between me becoming one or the other could be you. Make me a success, not a statistic.
Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Take an ordinary putty knife and scrape off the old wax ring. Place the new wax ring over the flange, then line up the bolts with the bowl and gently set in place, making sure a proper seal is created with the flange and drain. Next.
Dad?
Yeah, sweetie.
Is that an old plumbing manual?
Oh, yeah, honey.
We really need to get some new books.
Right, do you want me to stop?
Nah, I kinda wanna know how it ends.
Okay. Tighten the bolts, line up the flushing valve to the opening in the top of the bowl, and secure the tank with a screwdriver and crescent wrench.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Pumps and Politics, where we're talking a lot of headlines. We're, again, talking to you all about Election Day, which is tomorrow. So please make sure you go out and vote because we have, as Lainey, as you were talking about, a number of really important things on the ballot. We have the wine and liquor stores, the big amendments that are up.
The 4 big amendments that are up. And then we've got just the people that are running for office.
Exactly, which could shift the control of Congress.
Right.
So, you've had the First Lady and President who've been out doing a lot of stumping, and then just candidates and it's gotten kind of ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then we've got a lot of candidates, a lot of actually Democratic candidates that don't want the president stumping for them at all because his numbers are so low. What's interesting to me is that his numbers he has an 85% approval rating with African Americans and only a 34% approval rating with Caucasians and others. So, it's funny how we see what's been going on and and all the stuff that he has done that has been right, Osama bin Laden and just, different things, get bogged down in the stuff that may have not gone particularly, like Benghazi. But I think that Benghazi was it's almost a smokescreen to try to refocus us, and then, have people talking about, he didn't handle the Ebola situation correctly.
And then don't forget Obamacare.
Obamacare.
And the website.
Right, and the website crashing.
Goodness.
But I think that, the website actually has been up and running and people have been doing fine and people have been getting health care. And
we
a lot of
didn't hear
these
about
people
that. We heard when it didn't work.
Right. And a lot of these people in the poorest states who, I was just looking at something online, and there's a state, I believe, in Mississippi, which is there's a county, which is like 98% below, they live 98% below the poverty line, but they're also 98% Republican voting. Mm-hmm. And there's this whole video about how they, the person said, well, you're on food stamps and you're on, public assistance. And they're like, yeah, but the government shouldn't, we're still Republicans and we don't want government interference. But these are the people that are depending on it.
Wow.
There's this
but
whole.
You're using the government program.
The whole video. And they were like, we don't care. But, and one of them said that they would rather, I believe he would rather starve than vote for these things that are actually helping him. So
well, starve on. Good luck with that. If you don't want to vote, fine. But I have no tolerance for people who just
ignorance.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so we have with us a special guest on the phone. She's been with us before. Her name is Tiffany. She started a Facebook page asking for support for Officer Darren Wilson. He is the police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, who shot and killed Michael Brown, 18-year-old at the time. And that shooting has torn, or not torn, I believe that there's already a tear, but probably caused an additional rip in the relationship between whites and African Americans, and has brought to life some racial tension that was asleep for a little while. So we want to welcome her back this morning. Tiffany, are you there?
I am. Good morning, ladies.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you all today?
We're good. Thanks so much for coming back with us, Tiffany. I think last time we had some really, really good discussion, brought up some great points, and we wanted to have you back because there are now some developments in the cases. The grand jury is making its decision on if Officer Wilson should face charges or should he not. Let me first ask you, what have you all been hearing? What is the sentiment now? Is it still pretty much the same, or are things changing now that some more of this evidence is coming out?
I would say from our standpoint with the page that everybody's like, finally there's some things being quote unquote leaked or brought out that maybe Darren did do what he needed to do to stay safe himself. Obviously, we're still in the same standpoint. An 18-year-old man lost his life, and I don't care. I don't care if he was a quote-unquote thug or if he was a prize student. I don't care. A young man lost his life, and that's the bottom line. And then you've got this other man whose life is forever changed, and his family is forever changed. And I think we're excited that the possibility of the non-indictment is coming out, but I'm not the type of person to count my chickens before they hatch. So I just would like to wait and see what happens with it.
What kind of response are you all getting from the community in terms of people being upset with you all's position? If there have been any events that you all have held or have attended, either as this supporting group or individuals going to any of these events, what kind of response are you all receiving from the community?
It varies, to be honest with you. I've had some I haven't had a ton, but, I have my Officer Wilson support shirt, and I've worn it out a couple times, and people stop me and say, so what exactly do you support?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, I mean, let's get in the conversation. And I just tell them, I say, I'm not saying that every police officer involved shooting is legit and it's this and that, but what I'm saying in this particular case, I believe that he did the right thing. And that is what I support. I support the fact that he should not have been railroaded by government officials and, family members. I wish we could have just sat back and said, okay, let's just hold off and wait and see what happens rather than immediately jumping on the bandwagon of whether he's guilty of murder or if he's, if it was a justified shooting. It blows my mind that it became what it has become, to be honest with you. But people have been, they've been, some have been very supportive and some have given me dirty looks and don't understand, and that's fine. I'll never change everybody's opinion, but, I'd be more than happy. I've had a couple people message me on the page and call me a racist. I'm like, well, supporting law enforcement does not make me a racist, let's be honest.
And that's what I was going to ask you, if you have received, well, obviously you answered that, but in terms of those that are commenting on the page, I don't recall seeing any necessarily, but either commenting on the page, messaging you on the side, or if you all have, any meetings or communication outside of that, have you identified any racism within the group or any comments
or hateful speech?
Yeah, or hateful.
I will say I have looked at other pages, and I'm not just other support pages, and
because there's more than yours. I'm looking. I think there are about 3 or 4 others, or maybe 5 others that I see.
Right. There's a few. I know, and not to toot my own horn, I know mine was the first one, and then I think a couple others came a couple days later. I do not, and I don't care if you're a supporter of law enforcement or not, if you come on my page and you make racial slurs or if you make racist comments or if you call the president or the governor names. Now, I may not agree with what the governor and the president have been doing, but you have to respect the position. Do not come on my page and say hateful things because I delete you and I block you.
Right.
And I don't care if you're a supporter or not. That is not allowed on my page. I've made it very clear that that's not allowed on my page. We've had some, but I read, of course I go on Justice for Mike Brown to just kind of, who doesn't? They want to kind of see what's going on. And I see on there that there are supporters of, I don't even know if they're necessarily supporters of Darren in law enforcement or if they're just hateful people, but saying the racist things that they are saying to people on that support page, it's like, come on, people. Like, there's no need for it right now. There's none. All that, that does nothing but shows your ignorance.
Tiffany, let me ask you real quick.
I just don't allow it. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. You had just said, a lot of people want justice for Mike Brown. You want justice for Mike Brown. To you, what would be justice for Mike Brown? What is that? What does it look like?
I think he deserves. Since his past, I think he deserves to be held. I think the ceremony that took place for his remembrance and or his funeral, I think he deserved better than that. And by that I mean, I think he deserves a peaceful rest. And I don't know. I don't think he can be at peace with what has transpired since that happened. I don't think I don't know if that even makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to say is there has not been a rest for him and his family. You
mean in terms of all the rioting and
yeah,
okay, gotcha.
I think it's hard to say again because I wasn't there and I don't know the facts and I don't know what exactly happened. It's hard to believe, Mr. Dorian Johnson, who wants to run his mouth and talk about, what he witnessed when he's been arrested before for making a false police report. It's hard to believe everything that you hear from people, one side or the other. Let's just be honest with it, because I wasn't there. But I can tell you that I think Mr. Brown deserves to, like they have said, rest in peace. I think he deserves that. And I don't think that's going to be allowed for a very long time, because I think when the indictment or the non-indictment comes out, when the judgment comes out from the grand jury, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and that's sad. And I think he deserves better than that. People want to. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's going to be pretty tough, regardless what the grand jury decides. I mean, the House is clearly divided on this issue, and then you can't there's no way that you can satisfy both, even if you file charges against. Even if they approve charges against Officer Wilson, and it's for manslaughter or whatever it might be, there's no way to fully justify that.
Well, I think one of the I know that this Mike Brown did not die thinking that his life was going to become a political fireball, but one of the things so that he does not die and did not die in vain, I think one of the things that has come out of this is become community awareness, and for the people of Ferguson at least. And they have gotten involved. They have gone to the polls. They are getting registered to vote. So I think that some changes, while this is a horrible, horrible situation, some good has to come of this, because
absolutely
there's a lot of things that are going on in Ferguson that were not right, and there were a lot of people in Ferguson who were not well represented. And I also think that, that is indicative of a lot of places in the United States. So if this begins that conversation, then his death will not be in vain.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. I think that when you've got people like State Senator Nasheed, she, and again, this is just my personal opinion, the way she's going about her support for Michael Brown's family is so beyond wrong. She has stood up and talked about gun violence and how, you shouldn't be able to carry and this and that, when just, was it a week and a half ago, she was arrested and had a gun on her and was intoxicated. That is not the representation that they need right now. And I say they as in people in that community. They deserve better representation than somebody like that.
So, Tiffany, what community are you speaking of?
Ferguson.
Okay.
In that area, anyone who's represented by, like Nasheed in that area, people that are in there, and I'm so beyond glad to hear people are registering to vote and going to go vote tomorrow. And that makes me happy. What scares me a little bit is that when you vote off of emotions rather than education, that scares me a little bit.
Well, one of the things that I'm kind of interested in is the fact that that they are not releasing the grand jury results until after the election day, and people are actually being encouraged to vote Republican. And, what's interesting is that the DA and the county executives are Democrat. And you would think that, people would, just like you said, you want people to be informed voters. You would think that they would release this prior to, so that people are informed.
I think, and again, this is just talking with a couple of people that have a little better insight and can kind of help me understand things. I think I see kind of where they're going with it. If let's pretend like they announce the indictment this morning, and they come out and say there's a non-indictment. Nobody is going to feel safe to go to the polls tomorrow, because the fear that the media has put into them of what's going to happen when the indictment or non-indictment comes out. People are fearful of what's going to happen to them.
Or will people feel more empowered?
I'm sorry?
Or will people feel more empowered to vote?
I hope they do.
Even if they had the indictment come out earlier, would that spur people to the polls?
I think either way, if somebody's going to vote tomorrow, they're going to vote regardless if the indictment came out today or tomorrow, because they're ready for that change. You know what I'm saying? And I hope that's why, because you're absolutely right. I would never sit back and say every police department is so perfect and they do no wrong. I would never sit back and say that. I think there are things that we have learned from what has happened. I read a couple reports that said, Mr. Brown's body did lay there for 4 hours, and there was a report made that the coroner was scared to get out of out of his vehicle to go get the body because of how many people were gathering around.
There were actually a lot of people. There were a lot of pictures of there was nobody actually standing around. And
I wonder how far away that corner, because I can't get that confirmation. Nobody's willing to share that information with me because trust me, girls, I have called and called and called to get answers to things. Because I want to know, too, if that's the case, if they're really, truly, if his body laid there for 4 hours with nobody in sight, because you can't see around the corner. You can't see if the van was around the corner. You can't see if he would, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, if there was proper police protection, and if there was proper police
absolutely
protection for a coroner, a body should never, I don't care what you've done, a body should never, ever lay out there for 4 hours in the blistering heat.
Right, and there should be
uncovered.
You're exactly right. And if that's what happened, then they need to come up with a better way. God forbid this ever happens again, but they need to step back and look at their policies and procedures and say, hey, this should never, ever happen again, period. You know what I'm saying? So there's definitely learning experiences through this entire situation, and it's horrible that somebody had to lose their life and an officer had to have his life completely changed for anyone to want to make a change. They knew there was problems in Ferguson before this ever happened, but nobody was willing to step up and make a change.
Well, people were comfortable with those problems.
Isn't that crazy?
And that's the biggest problem. It becomes a tinderbox, and all a tinderbox needs is a spark to ignite the flame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can go back to the Civil Rights March. There was problems, and then Rosa Parks refused to move. It's the spark that ignites the flame.
I think on the other side of that, Lainey, though, while I think it was more than just folks being comfortable. I think you have, when you look at the numbers of Ferguson, the racial makeup of the citizens is different than the racial makeup of city leadership.
Right.
So that means that if you have a majority that can vote but don't, then I blame you.
Right.
I don't blame the folks in leadership. If I have room to, if I could just walk right in, and beyond just the racial factor, those that identify with your personal beliefs, with your goals, with your ethics. For example, we're voting here on Amendment 1, Tiffany, and that could potentially change legislation on abortion. Taking away the woman's choice to have an abortion or not. It's not about race. It's about voting for someone who I believe represents what I believe. And so we have to. For sure, there are some things that have historically and traditionally been in place that impede the minority voice, not minority in folks, but minority voice from being the majority voice. But we see that when one of our young men die in the street, we speak then. Right. When things don't go our way, we riot then. But how about instead of rioting, we just go to the polls? How about we just organize there?
Well,
I mean, that's a whole nother. That's on this
right.
And I think that I think a lot of people become apathetic, and they don't see. They don't see.
We talked about it this morning. It's happening already.
Right. They don't see things changing. They don't see people change. And so I think people become disenchanted with the process, and so then when they do, they just decide to bow out because a lot of people have been led to believe that one vote does not matter.
It's not exciting. It's not juicy.
Well, it's not even
anymore.
that it's not juicy. They just believe that your one vote. How is my one vote going to change anything? But they don't understand it's not just your one vote. One of the things that our pastor said yesterday in church was, in here sits 2,000 people. These 2,000 people in here could sway the election. If everybody voted, we could sway the election. And I think that that's what people need to start seeing. It's not just your one vote. It's your one vote coupled with your neighbor's one vote, with somebody else's one vote. And that's how you start getting things done. But I don't think that if people aren't explained, if you have to go back and undo a lot of the gunk that has been programmed in people's minds, and you have to start engaging people.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the people of Ferguson did not want to engage this majority to start voting. I don't think that there were voter election drives. There wasn't, candidates forums or anything, because once you start engaging people and you start bringing them to the table, that's when things starts to change.
Yeah.
Right.
Tiffany, go ahead.
I don't know if you all heard about what Governor Nixon came out with the Ferguson committee, and and I see where he's going with that. In his words, the way I understood it, that he wants to get a group of people together from every walk of life and come together and let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya and figure it out. And I get what he's saying. I get where he's going with that. And I think eventually at some point that's going to happen and it's going to work, you know. But right now, and again, it's just what I hear from people who are over there, and when I say people that are over there, I'm saying people who live over in Ferguson that have nothing to do with government or police officers or this
That's
and
right,
that.
because you're not in
just
Ferguson,
people.
actually.
No,
right?
no, I'm not. I wish I could be, but I'm not. But you know what I'm hearing is that all hell is going to break loose if there's a non-indictment. And the other night they were chanting, well, I say the other night, it was about a week and a half ago, they were not just chanting for Darren Wilson. They were saying there will be blood, and now they're going after all white people, not just black or police officers.
You know, Tiffany,
and that's a problem.
Let me ask you.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
The police chief recently stepped down. What are you all's thoughts on that? What's your take on that? What was the response in the community, in the support officer Darren Wilson community, but more specifically your husband's in law enforcement? Because that kind of to me that kind of represents maybe an admission of something. But what was the response when he announced he's stepping down?
I think it was very. I think people on both sides, okay. So out of all my supporters, I think there were some that were happy that he stepped down, some that weren't. And I'm not 100%. Did he step down? Because I thought he came out. The latest I'd heard, he came out and said, no, that was not the case, that he's not stepping down.
Let me go on here and double check, but I believe he did announce that.
I've read a couple different things, and last I heard when I talked to somebody over there, he wasn't actually stepping down. But either way, people are happy because they say, well, he wasn't doing his job in the first place. And then there's people that are like, yeah, but you're just giving up. You're throwing up your hands and giving up. And I talked to my husband about it, who is a police officer, and I said, well, back when he came out and was when he came out and said that basically what they did was wrong and this and that, my husband looked at me and said, if my police chief ever did not have my back, I would walk away. If you don't have your police chief that has your back, then, and I'm not saying I'm saying in a case like this where nothing's come out yet on one way or the other how this is going to go, and to go ahead and make the decision of, well, we did things wrong. Of course you did things wrong, but instead of just throwing your hands up and saying I can't do anything, why don't you say we did things wrong? We have learned from this. We want your feedback. We want to know how can we do things better for you because we serve the community. And then build from there. And I think people are they just want immediate responses. People, on both everybody that's involved in this want immediate responses, and that's not going to be the way to go with any of this. And I don't care if it's with the police department or if it's with government officials or anybody you can't have immediate responses, because once there's immediate response, then nobody would get the justice that they deserved, whether it be Mike Brown or Officer Wilson.
One of the things I want to go back to is something that you mentioned about, they said that, there will be violence in Ferguson and all white people won't be safe or whatever. I think we have to be very careful when we state stuff like that because of the fact that we don't know exactly who is planting this, because a lot of times there are people who are from the opposite side of maybe the protesters that plant stuff like this to make it seem more negative. Infiltrators. So I think it's very, very, it's a very thin line and it's a very careful line that we need to walk before we say and before we spread those rumors and innuendos.
I can say somebody was videotaping it, and I say somebody because I don't know who it was that was actually videoing it on their phone, but I heard the chants. And this is something else that I think the media and others outside of the viewing area of any of the news around here need to understand, and I've told people on my page this as well, if somebody makes a comment about and I'm just going to be frank with you ladies, but somebody makes a comment of, these blacks, they don't understand and blah 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 blah, I message them and say, you need to do your research, because if you saw any of the photos from the actual protesters in Ferguson right now, you would notice that a majority of them are not black people.
Well, yeah, and most
You
of
know
them
what I'm
weren't
saying?
from Missouri.
Right, right. Most of them that were causing all the rioting and this and that were not from Missouri. But, you know, people need to, it's this, everybody's made this out that it's the black community that is mad at the police department, and that's not the case. It is a community that is upset with the police department, not just the black community. You know what I'm saying? Because there is a lot of, I mean, if you ladies get a chance to go back, look at the Weekend of Resistance that they held last month. Look how many people there are. Every race out there that you could imagine are there, and it is predominantly not the black community.
Tiffany, we thank you so much for hanging out with us again for another Monday. I know we get you up kind of early and have you calling in about such a heavy topic, but we thank you for your time, for your role in this really huge issue that's taken over the nation, has held us hostage, if you will, for some time now. And again, as we said last time, we'll likely have you on again, and hopefully you will accept our invitation again. And thank you so much for your efforts and for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Anytime, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned. Another big headline we're going to take up very briefly. We're talking wine and liquor stores. So we'll be discussing that with one of the local liquor store owners, getting their take on how they feel about the vote and how it's going to impact their store and their sales. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We can make it better now. Come on, can we do it? Yeah, you know that we can. We'll rope it up, cause we know how to jump. We'll roll it out, cause we know how to skate. We'll cut it down, cause we know what to eat. We'll swap it out, we eat healthy stuff. Can we do it? Yeah, you know that we can. Can we do it? Yeah, you know that we can. Yeah, well come on.
Today's a good day to grab your kids and hang out with them for an hour. Dance, walk, play a sport, or cook a healthy.
Yeah, you know that we can. We'll ball it up, cause we know how to hoop. We'll mess around, cause we know how to play. We'll drop it down, cause we know how to dance. We'll veg it up, night and day. Can we do it?
Search We Can online to find doable tips and activities that you can use every day to keep you and your kids healthy. Remember, that's We Can.
Welcome back to Pumps and Politics. Got a lot going on. It's kind of heavy this morning, ladies. We had to hit on some serious stuff this morning.
We've talked some good stuff though.
It's a
lot of information.
Yeah, it's been pretty heavy, but that's what we do.
The funny thing is, we never even said who we were this morning. We never
we
did.
We
did no introduction.
Look, it was the Monday of Mondays. We just look. I'm Harriet. Got Lainey and Janine in the house. You know,
right.
Y'all know who we are.
Funny. I just thought about it. We never even said good morning, hello.
I know, we just went right into it.
We kind of did when we talked about the chili stuff,
right.
Did happy birthday, so y'all know
sometimes we just got to get into it. And
we just got to jump right in, feet first, and
so
go.
Fast.
Right. It does. We're almost coming to the end of that. And before we get to the end of our hour here, I want to bring on a special guest we have with us today. He's the owner of R&R Liquors. And there's a big discussion a big decision that folks will have to make when they go to the ballot box tomorrow. They will decide if we will have wine in our liquor stores or not. And this is something that has been up for discussion for some time. Very controversial. Of course, we have a number of liquor store owners who are not in favor of it. We have the convenience shopper and stores that are in favor of it. And finally, a little while ago, they finally got those that are in support of it, of having wine in the liquor stores, finally got the number of names, signatures on the petition to have that up for vote. So now we're being joined by Kenneth, who is the owner, if I got that right, of R&R Liquors here in the North Nashville area. Kenneth, we want to welcome you to Pumps and Politics this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just want to jump right into it, Kenneth. Look, tomorrow we will know there are 80 cities that will be making the decision. 80 different cities and some other counties across the state. And of those included, of course, of the big cities, there's Nashville, Brentwood, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, among many cities who are going to make a decision if they want wine and liquor stores or not. First off, what are your thoughts about wine and liquor stores? How do you feel about that?
You mean wine and grocery stores?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You said wine and liquor stores,
right?
Yes, you know what I mean. Wine in grocery stores. There we go. Yes, your thoughts about that?
Well, the fact of the matter is that's going to put some small merchants out of business. If you notice, a lot of stores are closely located to Kroger's or major shopping centers, and they're there because they offer that convenience of wine being close to the particular stores. But those are the stores that are behind it, so it's going to put some folks out of business.
Are you at all concerned about this if it does pass? And if so, what is your plan of action to stay alive?
Well, I'm more or less just ingrained in the art of going to work every day and working hard. So we've been doing that since 1949. So I'm not as vulnerable to it as some other stores would be. And the mix of my sales as it compares to spirits versus wine is such that it's not as large a factor for me as it would be for some other stores that have maybe more wine sales than spirit sales.
And I think one of the things that we need to make sure that everybody understands, it's just wine going into the grocery stores. And this actually, even if we vote on it and it does pass, this will not actually happen until 2016. So hopefully that will give the liquor store owners an idea of how to remarket what they are selling and how to it gives them a year to get into being able to market the spirits that they do sell versus the wine, because there's no way that a liquor store can compete with a grocery store because of the fact that a grocery store can buy in bulk. Mm-hmm. So buying in bulk will mean that the prices will be lower.
Right.
So hopefully that this will give you guys an idea and a way to circumvent that so that you don't go out of business.
Mm-hmm. But I like the fact that you said you know your stock, basically. You know your inventory. You know that liquor outweighs your wine sales. How many other stores, and you may or may not know this, but on average, do you think, at least in Nashville, how many other liquor stores probably are selling more liquor than they are wine anyway, and that this may not really affect them? I know it's in 80 counties across Tennessee, but just in Davidson County, do you think that there are more stores here that are like yours?
That's hard to even guesstimate. The fact is that the big box stores that sell the regular wines, you know, they're the ones that are going to feel it, you know, especially the ones that are close to like Kroger's or those shopping centers, or the ones like Costco, some other places like that. But still, I thought that this was kind of already, this is like the second wave. They've already voted it once in Davidson County. And it was, we knew that this was going in. This is to vote it in 2016 versus 2017. So with large stores like Kroger's and the grocery store associations pushing it so much, we just knew it was a matter of time anyway. But they still won't have some of the other wines that we sell in liquor stores that they don't sell. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the boutique wines and different varieties and varietals. They won't have all of those wines. They may have something like a Sutter Home or Barefoot, but they won't have some of your more different exotic type of wines, or some wines that are imports. They won't have some of the wines that people pretty much identify with and like Cupcake or Moscato or something like that. So there's still going to be a opportunity for us to capitalize on some customers coming in, and then you also have a situation where we do have the hard spirits and the different newer type of drinks that they're not going to be able to sell, and people drink wine generally. Sometimes they'll want something a little bit different, so we should.
So you're
it's
gonna.
not going to affect the particular store that I'm in as much as it would some of those other stores, though.
So it sounds like you're going to focus on some more of your specialty kind of wines as you will essentially be competing with the grocery stores, the big box for folks. And folks like me, quite honestly, I go in to get my dinner, then I would like to grab a bottle of wine instead of going to a separate store. But I'm also in support of smaller businesses staying afloat. And we know, for example, once Walmart gets a hold of something, it's kind of out the door. And with them being a grocery store and being able to carry a lot of those items, or even Sam's, that kind of changes the game. So are you all looking at, obviously focusing on some of your specialty wines, but are you all looking at making any adjustments to the liquor side of things? Are you going to be making some extra purchases to kind of fill in those holes left by the wine, or is it going to be pretty much business as usual?
It's going to basically be business as usual until we have an opportunity to analyze it and see exactly what's going on with the way that the developments take place. It's going to be hard to kind of react to something until we can get an idea of what we're dealing with. So
okay,
it's going to be business as usual basically for us.
Well, I think that's good. I think that it should be a little bit of just some competition in the marketplace for individuals. Kind of like Harriet mentioned, there are some consumers that would like to just get it all in one-stop shop. But I'm glad to hear that for your business, you're very optimistic because you know your inventory and you know your business and you know your market. And I think that's important for small businesses. And that, aside from just this issue, as a business owner, a small business owner, that's how you survive in general, I think. So I'm glad to hear that you seem to be optimistic about it all, and that for you, business isn't going to change much.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Kenneth, we want to thank you so much for being with us on the show today, and we certainly want to just kind of check back in with you after everything, after all the numbers are in, see where everything is. Where will you be tomorrow? Are you going to be at any, watch parties or anything? You're going to be at home just waiting to see what the results are?
Well, I already voted early. But,
yeah. Well, very good. Well, so everyone's early voted but me.
Come on, Harriet.
I know, and I feel like such a bum this election round. I'm sorry. No, I'm saying tomorrow in terms, a lot of folks will go out to different watch parties or to support events for any of the, amendments and things like that. Will you be out anywhere tomorrow? Will you be at home just kind of awaiting the results?
I'll probably just be at home. I probably pretty much figure it's a wrap. The people that sell us the wines or our distributors have pretty much made provisions for all these changes to take place, and they were probably ready to go in 2017. It's already understood that it's going to go in 2017. This is actually a referendum to get it in earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's pretty much considered over with as far as that's concerned. But we'll just have to see what's going to happen. But,
all right.
I still voted no anyway.
Well, of course. Kenneth, again, we thank you so much for joining us this morning. We wish you the best in your week and in business. And we'll be back checking in with you at some point a little bit down the road. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we've had a number of big headlines for you today. A lot of really, really good discussion. Yeah. Again, it's kind of heavy, but that's just what we do. We're kind of the first responders of the community, if you will, give you the news. And for more news, as if you haven't had enough already, of course, we have to do our weekly headlines with our news correspondent, Chantel Copeland, who joins us now. Chantel, what is going on?
Well, good morning, ladies, and good morning to all of you listening in to this week's Pumps and Politics. I'm Chantel Copeland, coming with the latest news that's happening around you. Starting off, the Vanderbilt rape trial against Brandon Vandenberg and Corey Beatty began this morning at 9 with the jury selection. Vandenberg and Beatty, along with 2 other football players, have been accused of raping a female student on campus in June of 2013. A trial date for the other 2 defendants has yet to be set. And for what's happening now at Tennessee State University, a new crime prevention group will meet tonight at 6 to discuss the problems taking place on campus and ways to solve these issues. The meeting will take place in the boardroom of the president's office. Now, this meeting comes underway after a freshman female student was shot multiple times near the entrance of the university last week. Police have taken 18-year-old Demario Fisher into custody for this crime. Fisher is the final teen to be arrested after escaping from the juvenile detention center, Woodland Hills, about 2 months ago. Now, here's a situation that will make you shake your head. A Moore County couple is now in custody, and both have been charged with 4 counts of murder for killing their newborn baby. Robert Roper and Carol Michelle Roper allegedly hid the pregnancy from the family. Once Carol had the baby in their home, the couple tossed the child into a fire pit. They both are being held on $1 million bond. And for some unbelievable news, an 18-year-old male has been arrested in Hueytown, Alabama, for allegedly robbing 4 Subway stores. Now, according to AL.com, Zachary Raphael Torrance admitted to police that he robbed the stores. And check this out. He said he tried the Jared diet, and it didn't work. So he wanted his money back. Torrance is now charged with first-degree robbery. Now, for a look at your weather, today consists of sunny skies reaching a high of 66 degrees. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 46. Tomorrow will also have partly cloudy skies, but it will reach a high of 69. Currently, it's 49 degrees. For Pumps and Politics, I'm Chantel Copeland.
Thank you very much, Chantel. I didn't have Lainey in here with me. She had to step out and scoot on over to work. You know, we normally have to do your make fun of you a little bit. That's just what we do. You know, it's all good.
I know it's all love.
Well, thank you very much, Chantel. And thank you, everybody, for listening in this morning. We, again, went over a lot of things. We just want to make sure that you are informed and that we have a room to discuss so many headlines, which is why we started this format to begin with, because there's a lot of news that reaches you. But we don't have a lot of room and opportunity oftentimes to just kind of flush them out and talk them over. And Janine, it was awesome to have you in the studio today. We know that new job, they got all of our Janine. It's okay.
Yeah, the month of October, I just had to take a little break. It was a struggle.
It was a lot. I understand.
It was a lot.
But everyone, speaking of taking a break, we're going to take a break now for the rest of the week, and we will be back with you every Monday right here on WTNT Radio at 11 a.m. So everyone, stay tuned every Monday because we love hanging out with you and discussing everything that's going on. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest, and be sure to tune in every Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. for the 2 hours of power, the bench press, coming right here to you. Have a good one.